Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's Az.
My name's David.
My name's Andy.
Welcome everyone ahead of another set of double fixtures. It's another double game week coming up, and then there's another one after that as well. But we are recording this and it's a live stream going out on Tuesday night, and it's in the dying moments of the Champions League game involving Spurs and Man City, and of course Liverpool playing Porto. And just as we were preparing and we were arranging all of our wildcard teams, we've had the news through that Kane is injured. We don't know the full extent of it. It didn't look pretty, but we're going to have some wildcard teams a bit later. We're going to be discussing premium options in detail later as well, so we're going to be more than covering what to do about Kane. But in the meantime, David, what have we got coming up on the show?
Well, apart from absolute distress and panic and complete lack of ideas of what to do in the wake of a Harry Kane injury, we still have plenty that thankfully has not been just ripped to shreds by recent events in the last 20 minutes. So, as you said, we've still got doubles. You've got doubles in 34 and 35. So there's still plenty of questions on players to target outside of Harry Kane, thankfully. And of course, we probably all have a lot more money to spend on a lot of these options now, which will probably colour the discussion that we have there. We obviously are I think all of us are on our wild cards. We're going to talk about what it's currently looking like, what it's now going to look like without Kane, or maybe with Kane. Maybe he's fine. Only time will tell. And then we're going to look back over actually what was actually quite a good game week for all of us in Blank Game Week 33. A really strange one in that everybody kind of went really big on their free hits in Game Week 32, and obviously we all got quite good scores, but most people's green arrows weren't particularly big. And then all of a sudden in a week when we've only got a select few options to go for, that's the incredible week everybody was really happy with. So, obviously with another double game week coming up, we're going to talk about, are we going to get too excited again? Are we going to get too excited about maybe Brighton playing twice, Captain Duffy, and then once again the double disappoints? So, lots of things to talk about, and then we're going to just do our usual stuff with clean sheets, differential tips, and who our next captain will be. And like I said, that's just yet another thing that is probably now completely different than what it was a couple of hours ago when we planned this. So we will do our best.
Okay, thanks so much for that. Before we have a brief look at our Game Week 33 events, and we all had a good game week. I just want to point out, for those watching on the video version, because of all the confusion about Kane's injury, Az and Andy's name have moved around. So what I'm going to be doing throughout the show is moving them back again. So those watching on video, you will be seeing some names move around, but that's fine. But on the podcast version, it won't matter at all. You won't know what the hell's going on, so that's fine.
It looks all right on YouTube from what I can see.
I've just moved it, that's why. And so it will keep happening each time we change a scene. And but anyway, it might be an added bit of amusement for people.
You get an identity crisis.
Yeah. Let's go in for Game Week 33. As you're having a bit of identity crisis, because you've had a really good game week. So let's put your team up. You have got
a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
You've got 84. Maddison in for Pogba. That was a good move.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I was debating Tielemans and Maddison all week, and Tielemans scored pretty early, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to have made another wrong decision there. But yeah, it turned out to be fine. I went a bit risky and played Dean over Wan-Bissaka as well, because I looked at some stats, and actually I thought Everton had a better chance for clean sheet in that game than Palace did against Newcastle. And then when Palace get the clean sheet, I was like, oh, that's going to go against me as well. And it didn't, so that was nice. And yeah, it was my best game week of the season, highest game week rank of the season. Really nice rank increase. Hazard on Monday night was great. And that was another thing, because I changed the captaincy from Vardy, who I was saying kind of all week I was going to captain. There was some rumours going around that he hadn't trained. And normally I wouldn't listen to them, but there was just that little bit of doubt just really put the sort of the seed in my mind that he might not
have we been
play the whole game.
Like this? Do you remember Aguero? He's not seen in training, comes out with like a monster haul earlier in the season, and then Mane as well. Oh, which Liverpool player? Oh, Mane. Mane didn't train.
One thing on that though, because everyone remembers when it went badly, but Vardy had that happen earlier in the season and he didn't play. I was going to bring him in, and the news came out that he was maybe not going to play, and he didn't. So it doesn't always go bad, but it obviously is way more annoying when it happens.
Well, I didn't listen to it with Aguero, and he did play and did well. But then I didn't listen to it with Rashford when he wasn't pictured at the home. Someone was saying he was going to be on the bench or something, and then he didn't play, and I played him. And then there was Lindelof as well, and I kept him. So I've kind of had a bit of a mixed bag with it, and kind of got got the Aguero one right, and the majority wrong. So yeah, it is a funny one. So I was really upset when Vardy went crazy in that game, because I thought, oh, there's no way Hazard's going to get 16 points. And then he got exactly 16 points. It made absolutely no difference, no difference whatsoever. But yeah, no, it was a really good game. And and like what David just said, I genuinely prefer the blanks to double game weeks, because double game weeks just seem there's so much chaos that can happen, and it can be underwhelming, or you can have loads of players doing really well that you don't own, all that stuff. In the blanks, with kind of just quite a select group of players, I feel like, yeah, it's a bit easier to navigate that. So yeah, really good game week for me.
It is, and it's one of those times where we always get these 50-50 decisions, don't we? Do you captain Hazard? Do you captain Vardy? Do you get Maddison in? Do you get Tielemans in? In the end, it didn't matter, because...
Do I play Dean or Wan-Bissaka? None of it made any difference whatsoever.
None of it made any difference. It's fantastic. And that's a very similar story to mine as well. Who do I get in for Anderson? Well, I went for Tielemans. But I was thinking of Maddison. Well, it didn't matter in the end. I was never going to captain, although I've got a vice captain on Mane, but I was not keen on Liverpool at all. I said that in the videos last week for the captaincy. I just felt that Southampton were better defensively, and I just thought West Ham were absolutely awful, and that's why I went for Hazard as well. So I was just behind you there with 81.
Should have triple captained him, Joe.
I should have done. You told me. You said, Colombo-esque, one more thing. And I do regret that, but... because I'm going to have that every single game week. I don't really want to triple captain anyone in a single game week, but I've got to. And nevertheless, I was very pleased it came in. So I've gone up to 25k. So I was 60k 2 weeks ago. So that's a pretty good rise for me. And I just wanted to point out as well, myself and FPL Awesome O on Twitter, we are now firmly on the Christmas card list of TED Talks FPL. So he put up various... stats and why he was going to be captaining Mane and why he wasn't happy with Hazard as his captain, and we just bombarded him with more we just stat attacked him with how awful West Ham were, and eventually we helped persuade him to move his captain from Mane to Hazard. So that was a huge swing for him. So I was very, very pleased with that, and I look forward to my TED Talks FPL Christmas card coming up. David, you're up next. What did you get here? Let's have a look. You got 79, just behind, taking into account a hit. Vardy and Tielemans in for Anderson and Barnes. Wow, that's a hit, isn't it? That's a hit of a hit.
Yeah, it was great. It was a fantastic game week. I mean, it was really nice because we went into that blank game week 31. Kind of a lot of us all went in there dead ending for 31 and 33, not using any chips, and then 31 was just really naff.
So bad.
Really, what else were we expecting? It was like 5 teams and they all suck, so of course it was rubbish. But as you've mentioned before, Joe, really, when you were prepping for 31, you were almost kind of prepping for 31 and 33 like it was a double.
I saw it as half time. The end of 31, I just saw that's like Saturday's fixtures. We got Sunday to come, and yeah,
exactly. So then, it was really nice to amazingly, when my free hit kind of expired and my old team came back, I was like, oh man, look at this rabble. And obviously I've made 2 changes. So, I did tweak it a bit, but, everyone had kind of been in there for a reason, and all that careful planning actually just finally paid off. It was really nice. Like Pereira got an assist. I know he didn't keep the clean sheet, but come on, Pereira, you're never going to keep the clean sheet. But I got something, clean sheet out of David Luiz, just a few people in there just sort of ticking by. Obviously Hazard was in there previously as well. Tielemans I went for just because I kind of felt like it was a bit of like a 1 week punt, because I knew I was going to be wildcarding and he was in good form, stats to back it up. We obviously tipped him in the differentials article on the site as well. But then the Vardy decision, I kind of covered it on the captain video we did, in which I actually said that I thought he was a better captain candidate than Hazard, which shocked a few people. But I still kind of stand by it because I know Hazard's obviously delivered, and it is annoying because I own Hazard, and on Monday night it was a case of I kind of wanted him to like maybe get an assist, and that was it. Because in the end, he was a player that I own that shrunk the size of my green arrow, which is always a bit sort of like, no, I don't really know how to feel about that. But I still stand by that he was a really strong candidate because, you know, statistically he was in good form. I think only one player had more shots on target than him in the 4 matches leading up to 33. He'd had the most number of big chances of any player, level with, I think it was Lacazette, and that was just miles ahead of Hazard. And yeah, I know West Ham looked really poor and have done leading up to it, but I was a little bit sort of worried that Hazard might not play, just with that Europa League game, and with it being only West Ham, I thought maybe this is the kind of game where Sarri can not play him, play someone else so that he's got Hazard fresh for the Europa League. Obviously, none of that happened, but I still think that was a possibility. So, and obviously, you know, Captain Vardy was justified anyway because he got the 16 points. But you know, that's just to explain that there was slightly more to me than just a kind of a gut call. I was basing it on I'd say it as an educated gut call more than anything else, and it's just really nice for it to come off because sometimes when you go for the outside candidate, it blows up in your face. And I'm glad he did deliver because honestly, if he'd done nothing and I didn't captain Hazard and he obviously got the 16 points, that would have left me in the right state. So
yeah, they'd be coming at you with pitchforks.
Yeah, exactly. So up to 10, I'm 10k, kind of like 10,700 now. So I'm not quite in the top 10k, but I'm definitely back up to where I'm hoping to finish this year after the season I've had. So yeah, very, very good.
Excellent. Now, Andy, bottom of the pile, but I say that, it's 71 points. And, you know, it's a really good, presumably you got a good green arrow and you got Kepa in for Button. So once again, you know, that's another good transfer amongst us this week.
Yeah, it was decent enough. Bringing Kepa in was basically the double up on Chelsea defence because already had Louise. Still really annoyed that he got that yellow card for time waste, and he got the yellow literally as he kicked the ball as well. He was getting close to the bonus points at that point, but c'est la vie. Yeah, and then Harry Maguire, who got a red card in the first blank for me, I thought, right, game week 33 is the time to redeem himself. So when I saw he wasn't in the squad, I was really annoyed. But then Wan-Bissaka came off the bench, so it actually worked out pretty well. And I thought Wan-Bissaka might come on anyway for David Luiz, and he ended up playing. So it was pretty good all round. Has a captain. I think a lot of people were worrying about him scoring against West Ham or awful while he's in great form. I actually think probably deserved more points, to be honest, the way he played. If he'd had a few better teammates around him, I think he would have got more, and probably a penalty on him in the first half as well. So yeah, 71, decent week. I'm up to like 10,600 odd now. Okay. So pretty close to the top 10k, hoping to get there with the wild card.
Excellent. Yeah, it's really pleasing. A rare moment where all four of us have done well, and I think that's quite good because it shows that, you know, we've been looking at strategy and planning. We've been waiting for these blanks and these double game weeks, hoping to move up the rankings. And fingers crossed, may it continue. Have we got some rough with the smooths to look at?
We do, yeah, and a lot of the smooths are sort of follow on from this good transfers and some good hits being taken, like David. So Arsenal champ, who says it's the best -4 decision he's ever made, took out Aguero and Philippe Anderson and brought in Hazard and Vardy. Gave the armband to Hazard. 46 points that transfer, which is, you know, pretty nice. QPR United, the Hills have Moyes. Now this is a good one. Mm-hmm. So he had 12 players anyway, so he was in decent shape for the game week, but thought, no, I can get some better ones in. So took out Anderson, took out King, brought in Vardy and Maddison. Lovely, great moves.
Wow.
Then thought, no, that's not quite enough. I'm going to give Hazard the triple captain.
Whoa.
Gave him the triple captain, 103 points.
Oh.
Game week rank of 272.
Oh,
damn, and up from 67,000 to 27,000. So,
huge rise.
Yeah, big rise, great moves. Gets the kind of monkey off his back with the triple captain, which is just plaguing Joe, David, and I.
Oh no!
Just another one. So Shirtless took his first hit of the season, which just seems completely crazy to me. But not only took a hit, took a -8. Brought in Salah, Tielemans, and Vardy for Sterling, Pogba, and Rashford. 47 points gained, and also made a signing in the blank game week 31. You won't believe who he brought in.
Who? No.
Westwood.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Got 13 points this week.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, I know. So, yeah, amazing.
I can't look it up quickly here, but Westwood, his ownership, and let alone the transfers in that week, there must have been like Only been like about 10 people or something.
Well, he's just a 4. It's like a 4.4 enabler, isn't he?
Yeah.
Who you never would think would get you points.
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, that's
I
the
don't
thing.
even recall hearing his name this season. Like,
No.
yeah, last season I think he was most people's enabler, but this season barely.
Well, it's all been about O'Neill, isn't it? Dwight
Yeah.
O'Neill, because I think he's around the same price, and he's been looking a bit better. So people have been going to him.
I
But
think if Burnley had a double game week, he'd be, at least discussed. But yeah, outside of that, no one's going to. Wow,
I know,
that's
crazy. Really good. It's just a couple of roughs. FPL King, Tom Fenley, missed the deadline. Tom, no captain.
Tom Fenley, the Tom Fenley.
Former champion Tom Fenley, no captain. Vice and main captain didn't play. Only had 7 players for the game week.
No.
Managed 30 points.
Oh, no.
Still ahead of me in the league.
Of course, and just pointing out that Watford's goalkeeper and my own personal hero this season, Ben Foster, also forgot the deadline as well.
Oh no.
So Tom is in good company and Ben is in good company as well.
Yeah. Man getting hit by football captain Josh King. So went for someone a bit different. Didn't work out. He had Hazard and Vardy, but obviously you're going to be a bit annoyed when you go for someone a bit different, and 2 of your players do really well. And the last one is Carlton Cole, Jack Jones, Lugs, and Luke, our own Luke, all captain Mane. Yeah. So poor returns for him.
I mean, I said earlier that I wasn't happy about it, but I did put my vice captain on Mane, so I did think I'd consider him like my second best option as well. But yeah, that's got to hurt as well. Especially that Salah goal. But once again, look at Salah there, 6 points, 1 goal, and not much else. But I'm sure we'll discuss Salah a bit later. So let's move on to, we've got a number of discussions here from the community questions. What we're going to do is we're going to look at a whole bunch of different types of teams. We're going to start with looking at the Game Week 34 double teams. And then we're going to go into a bit more detail in Game Week 35 and kind of season running budget options. And then we're going to look at premium options. And that's where I'm sure Andy's going to direct the conversation around Kane or what to do with a lack of Kane. And then we're going to look at a kind of whipping boys. Every now and again we like to kind of do a roundup of who the teams are. The underlying stats say that the teams are the ones who are going to get hammered as well. This is sort of a seaside special whipping boys, which sounds like a kind of Blackpool S&M meet up or something, but it's in fact just looking at those who are also on the beach. So not only are they getting hammered, but they don't care because they've got their sunglasses on and their speedos, and they're ready to take a dip in the pool instead of getting on the pitch. And then obviously at the end we'll round up as well. We'll have a look in detail at our wildcards. But I'm going to take this one, and because it's quite a short one really, looking at the Game Week 34 doubles, and we're looking at Brighton and Cardiff. Now the picture I'm going to put up is a daring move I considered. I don't know if I'm going to go the full way, but this shows how what we could do really with the Brighton team. It's all about the defence, I think, and this is the kind of really maxing up on this. Obviously, if someone had triple captaincy left, they could triple captain Duffy as well. But Ian Walker asked, what's our thoughts on triple Brighton defence for Game Week 34? One can easily become a Wolves or Watford defender for Game Week 35. And primarily we're looking at kind of Duffy and Ryan here. So yeah, let's go with you first, Andy. What's your thoughts on Brighton? Have you got 1, 2, 3 going for an attack, or is it just all about the defence for you?
Yeah, I've got all 3 defenders currently. I'm fairly sure I'm going to go with it all the way. There's 2 things I'm trying to do. Is one, remember that we have transfers after this wildcard, because I think some people think we're going to be stuck with all these players for the rest of the season. So while I wouldn't want to book in too many transfers, I think 1, as a plan to go into a double game week is fine. I mean, we plan for double game weeks for the whole season, so why not do it for the next week? And 2, I'm kind of looking at the whole fixtures till the end of the season. And yes, they're double game week in 35, because obviously, as a lot of people pointed out to me today, you're going to be stuck with them. If you go for 3, you can only transfer 1 out without taking hits. You're going to be stuck with them for a pretty dodgy double game week in 35. They got, I think it's Wolves and Spurs away. So you're not really expecting a clean sheet there necessarily. But for a bench boost, 2 appearance points, hoping they can nick something else, might not be the worst thing. But basically, after 35 as well, they've got Newcastle at home. So again, if I'm not benching all of them, would I mind having to play one of them against Newcastle at home? I don't think so. So I'm not seeing it as being stuck with them after 34 necessarily. I think there's a chance they could get me something on the bench boost. And I don't want to. The one thing I'm trying to not do this season is only focus on that bench boost because, at the end of the day, 20, 25 points, sure, but there are other game weeks to worry about as well. And this week, if I turn around and say to you that Brighton probably going to get a clean sheet against Cardiff, I don't think many people would be shocked at that. And then they've got another game to potentially get something else and attacking returns across 2. So I think I'm going to go for it. And the only thing that might make me reconsider this now is the Kane injury, just to bring that up already. I was having a cheap defence to put all my money up front. And, if I downgrade Kane further than, past Aguero to someone like Lacazette, for example, then, it's another 2.5 million freed up. So I might be able to spend it. But I just think the fixtures are there. I think one clean sheet is absolutely not out of the question for 4.7 million pounds. So I'm probably going to go for it, I think. I'm definitely going to go for 2. So what's one more is the way I'm kind of looking at it. But no to attackers for me, not for Brighton.
And just before we come to Az, what about Cardiff? Just absolute no-go zone for you?
No, I looked at Camarasa, but basically he would be keeping enough money to upgrade to Southampton and Watford player. So I've not ruled that out completely. But I probably just won't go for it because there's 2 away games as well. But yeah, Camarasa is the only one I've really looked at from Cardiff, no one else. But yeah, I'm not completely against him. I just will probably book the transfer in for a Brighton defender instead.
Az, what's your thoughts? Obviously, like me, you're a Brighton fan. So yeah, it's tempting, isn't it? Really load up on him. What do you think about Brighton?
Well, Duffy, I get. Like, he's got really amazing goal threat. I think he's got the most attempts of all defenders in the league this season. He's got 6 goals. It's what I like in a defender is someone who gives you that attacking threat. So even if the clean sheet goes, you know that you could still get a header or something from a set piece. Ryan, I get, like, you get him in for 2 weeks and then you probably get another goalkeeper alongside him that you can play for the trickier fixtures afterwards. I just don't get Dunk. I can't sit here and say that I'm even considering the triple with Dunk because I just think there's a lot of good defenders out there, for this double game week in a few weeks. And a lot of cheap ones as well. Like even someone like Mariappa or Cathcart could end up doing quite well. Then you've got all the Wolves defenders, Bennett and Johnny and Doherty, and then you've got going up from that, you've got like Kolasinac and players like there's too much choice to limit me to Dunk, who doesn't have that much attacking threat. He got the most own goals last season, I think, of all the defenders. And yeah, with I know we get transfers afterwards, but even at the best of times, you don't like making a transfer or a defender, let alone coming up to the final few game weeks of the season, when we might be looking to get in players like Salah or having to change our team structure around to fit in players and to do certain things. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Duffy. I don't think I'm going to captain him. I think still Spurs against Huddersfield's too good a game, but I can see why. I like Ryan, but yeah, Dunk's a bit of a stretch.
And before we get to David, Cardiff, Camarasa.
Well, Cardiff. I mean, there's Camarasa, but if you're playing him this week in a double, that means you're not playing someone else. Like if I had him, I'd probably have to play him over like Mane, and I don't really feel too comfortable about doing that. And then I want a kind of a midfielder for my bench boost. So, and then he's only got 1 game, and it's Liverpool, isn't it, in that week? So it's not really ideal. I mean, FPL Virgin posted an article on the site earlier where he mentioned Sean Morrison, who's had the most penalty box touches of anyone. So he could be a potential really cheap defender to consider. Other than that, there's no one else I like.
Okay, David, what do you think? Brighton, are you tempted to go double, triple, captain? How far are you willing to go to Brighton?
Well, I am definitely considering going the whole hog and getting all 3, and captaining Duffy. For me, I think it's almost an easier decision now that Kane's got that injury to bring him up again, because it really was just between those 2, to be honest. And I just thought we've joked before we come on air that Az seems slightly more reticent to actually do it because he is a Brighton fan and has ever actually seen them.
Oh yeah, and we're rubbish. That's another good point that no one's mentioned yet.
Whereas, I don't have that history of watching Brighton and being disappointed by them. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that means I'm more likely to go.
Oh my God!
But
And that's a whole separate Scoutcast.
Yeah.
We can reel off my disappointment over the years.
Exactly. But sort of just looking at it very objectively, I mean, it does look like a fantastic opportunity, and to Bournemouth and Cardiff are really two teams that are very poor away from home. We've got some greater detailed analysis of that in the most recent members article we did on the site about goalkeepers for the Wildcard squad, and pretty much just the bottom line on that is that you just need Ryan. There's not really anyone else who can offer what he can over the next couple of weeks. You're not going to get as many save points out of him as you perhaps like. He hasn't really been making as many saves as he was maybe earlier on in the season, last season. But just the clean sheet potential for these two games is really, really high. So I just think, why not go for it? I mean, I'm very much inspired by what's happened in the week just past, where I've had a bit of a differential call. I've had a few of those this season, and I've bottled it. This last week I went for it, and it paid off. If I want to try and soar up and get into the top 10k. And maybe tripling up on Brighton and captaining Duffy is what, because if two clean sheets come in from that, and you've captained one of them as well, I mean that could be like 40 points just from those three players. So I think it's definitely an opportunity. Whether or not I'm actually going to do it is another question, because I think someone made a very good point. Obviously we do have transfers, I'm aware of that, but we're pretty much all in a situation where we're going to bench boost next week, right? The week after the one we're just going to have. Do you really want to be bench boosting Duffy and Dunk when it's away at Wolves and Spurs, where and Brighton are really quite poor away from home? So it's one of those weeks where you can't just say to yourself, "Oh, I'll just bench them," because if you're going to play the bench boost, you can't do that. So,
but you've both just basically said you're going to get two, right? Ryan and Duffy.
Yeah.
So this is just one more. So it's only one transfer to get to that Watford or Southampton defender anyway.
Maybe. But I do see what Az is saying about, do you really want to be spending a transfer ahead of a bench boost week on a defender? Maybe you do, because maybe you're going to be fine tuning. And to be fair, I'm very open to the possibility of taking a hit or two maybe for the bench boost week, because it's a bench boost week, right? So maybe it could work out. I mean, I think I probably will go for it, because I just see it as a great opportunity. It's just there are definitely risks that come with it in terms of what you do elsewhere. And what it impacts on other things, and it could theoretically end up damaging your bench boost potential if you're just boosting like 1 point, because Brighton conceded 3 goals in both games they play in 35. So yeah,
you're not going to take a hit to do Dunk to Bennett.
Well, no, but I mean,
no, I'm going to make a free transfer. And do it.
Yeah,
but what if you have an injury? What if something else happens?
Yeah, I know, but what if I have an injury any week? Do you know what I mean? What if I set on my team to not need any transfers, I don't get an injury, I just carry it through?
Giving yourself a transfer is one thing. Giving yourself a transfer of Dunk to a 4.1 million Wolves defender just seems such
You're just thinking about Gameweek 35. You're not thinking about Gameweek 34 as well. So there's still points to be had this week. And if you look at the big teams as well, Arsenal away, I mean, they've not kept a clean sheet all season. Man United playing West Ham, I don't think anyone's getting Man United defenders. Chelsea play Liverpool. So it's not like I feel like I'm not missing out on a big player this week to play these two, which is why I'm more into it. If Liverpool were playing Fulham and Chelsea were playing Huddersfield or whoever it might be, they'd be a bit different. I just feel
you've got loads of cash in the bank. You've got Trippier, Laporte, players like that who you could have.
Yeah, all with one game. I mean, I can have them as well.
That's the thing. I think that. So I mean, a couple of times.
You'd rather have Trippier with one game than Dunk with, I don't know.
I can have Trippier, Duffy, and Dunk. Obviously, everyone's team's different. I just think if you're already arguing that you're going to have two, then one more is, I don't know. It feels like it's not that much of a big deal, really.
Yeah, and to be fair, like Andy's got it. I think he's nailed it in the sense that if you, I know we are looking at a longer period, but there are opportunities to be had in this game week which you could overlook if you look beyond it. And the thing is, I get what you're saying about like spending a hit to do, a Brighton defender to a Watford one or something. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to do that, but if the triple pays off, then you've actually got some points to spend. And there's been a couple of times where, I've done that this season where things have come off way better than I thought they would on a bit of a risky move. It makes me feel more inclined to spend a hit the next week, because it's almost like I've kind of given myself some points to spend to then make those changes. So, that's asking for a lot. That is asking for 2 clean sheets. But if it pays off, you've almost given yourself that little bit of extra currency to pay for a hit, I think.
I just don't think it's worth it for Dunk, personally. Like, just I wouldn't be surprised if Brighton conceded in both those games. I think there is other decent options this week and the week after, but I can see it. It's just a bit much for me.
I think Brighton have the potential for clean sheets, serious potential. You look at it there, Bournemouth and Cardiff as well. They've had 3 clean sheets in the last 6 home matches, Brighton. So people say they haven't had many home clean sheets, but they've had a lot recently and at home. They conceded to Burnley and Liverpool, but they kept Huddersfield, Watford and Everton at bay over that period as well. So these are the types of teams that they've kept clean sheets at home. Bournemouth, I think, are on the beach, but we'll talk about that a bit later. Cardiff are just...
They've been poor away from home as well. Like even when they weren't on the beach, Bournemouth were terrible away from home.
And so looking at the attack, last 4 away, Cardiff are the joint lowest amount of big chances, just 2, third lowest amounts of shots on target. Bournemouth last 4 away, a little better, 13 shots on target and 7 big chances. That's not too bad. But then you switch to the last 2, which is sort of when their holidays started, and there's just 4 shots on target the last 2 matches. And that's the joint 5th worst. So Bournemouth are steadily getting worse with each match as we come to the end of the season. And Cardiff are just worse than anyone or anything ever all season. And so they're pretty poor as well. And I think there's attacking threat here. You mentioned about Duffy, 10 shots over the last 6 home matches. Andoni and Locadia, who play up front, Andoni matches him for 10, and Locadia's got the most with 13. So I think Duffy is the best option there, and he has had a goal in over his last 6 home matches as well. And as we said, 3 clean sheets. So there's the potential for a broad range of points there. A lot of people are going for Murray. I'm not sure that's so good. I'm not sure he's going to play twice, so it's like playing a very old striker who plays once, and that doesn't sound great to me. And he's had 9 shots, which is okay. Not a single one on target over those 6 home matches. So that's pretty poor as well. And there's a variety of other players. I'm sure we'll mention in our differential section. Brighton do have a lot of quite good wingers, midfielders, very creative midfielders there. But which one's going to play, which one's going to score your points? It's a complete lottery there.
If Solly March is fit, then I think he could be a good option at 4.8.
Yeah, I was looking at him earlier this season.
Yeah, he's been our best player this season, I think.
Yeah, and he's very versatile as well. I think that's probably the key, is that Knockout can only really play on the wing. Jahanbakhsh can only play on the wing. I think Locadia has played on the wing, but could play up front, but hasn't really played there. But March can basically play either left attacking midfield, right attacking midfield, number 10.
He's played 10 as well, yeah.
So, because Houghton actually does like to rotate quite a lot his forward options, doesn't he? But someone like March has that advantage because he can play several different roles. So I'd love it if he was nailed on in terms of fitness, because like I said, I was looking at him earlier on in the season. He is a good player.
Yeah, I think, just going back to the whole Duffy tripling up and things like that, in my current wildcard team, which I'm now going to have to rip up, it's got Kane captain, Duffy, Dunk and Ryan. If I was to captain Duffy, I wouldn't have Dunk as well, because effectively a triple up is as far as I'm willing to go. I am not willing to quadruple up on a Brighton defence, but I am willing to triple up. So Dunk,
what's one more, Joe?
What's one more? But with Dunk can become someone better, and that means that I perhaps go into Gameweek 35 making a transfer to cope with an injury or suspension, but it also means I can save a transfer and then go into 36 with 2 free transfers, which sounds quite good to me, because I might want to start loading a bit more up on, say, Liverpool, for example, and I might need to find some extra money to do that. Firmino is someone I caught regularly, and he scored again tonight, and he just
that's like Eriksen.
And Eriksen's great as well. And there's a whole bunch of players I really like. And as it gets to this part of the season, I just want players I like, kind of, in as well. But yeah, I think for me, the picture I've got up on the screen is perhaps a bridge too far. But that without Dunk, or that without the captaincy on Duffy, I think is perfectly reasonable. And, Dunk can go to all sorts of players. So Yoshida's quite a good one. He's got attacking threat as well. You can easily make that move for Southampton. And looking at Southampton's fixtures, that's a really nice player to have on a bench boost as well, I think. And then, of course, you've got the player I do have in mind is actually Bolly at Wolves, doubling up on the Wolves defence. And Bolly, who we know also has a bit of attacking threat about him as well. But let's move on to game week 35 really and beyond. So looking 34, 35 and then season running. And we're going to look at budget options first. And Az, you're going to be taking this one. So yeah, what have the community been asking us?
Yeah, so I guess the thing is with wildcards, the thing with bench boosts and stuff is that you need to get in, the good premium players, but you also need to get in the cheap ones sort of around the side. So Craig Thompson and Andy Martin ask about Watford. Has Deulofeu played his way into our wildcard teams? Is Deeney a great option up front in double game week 35? Mike SS says Decore or Deulofeu. So, I mean, Watford have an incredible double game week with Huddersfield and Southampton. So it's only right we should be considering their players. And then Toblerone asks, who are your bench boosties? The bargain basement boys. He mentions Valerie, Bednarek, Højbjerg, Bennett at Wolves. Which other Wolves and Southampton players appeal? Well, let's go to you first. David, what do you think? What do you think about the Watford boys, and who are your kind of cheapy players that you're considering?
Yeah, I've got to say it's a really tough one. I think that the cheap midfielders especially is an area where I am actually a little bit stumped at this point, because I'm not seeing I'm kind of really, really inspired by. Deulofeu obviously looked fantastic in that FA Cup semi-final, but he didn't start, which is for me the biggest issue with owning Deulofeu, is you never know when he will do that. It's Watford's biggest game since the 80s or something. That was the last time they made an FA Cup final. So, why is one of their best players this season on the bench? And that's because Gracia likes to rotate, and so then that really puts me off.
And did you see Deeney said he prefers playing with Andre Gray?
Exactly.
Weird.
Yeah, very strange. So, there's, in terms of really pinpointing down one individual I would be confident would play both games. It's not Deulofeu. It's definitely not Deeney either, because again he can come in and out as well. Decore probably stands out a little bit more because I think I'd be more expecting him to play both games. But it doesn't really feel like the same type of option. I would love to get Deulofeu if I knew he was going to play both. Decore doesn't really give me that same feeling. I know he keeps kind of popping up with goals here and there, busting Man United clean sheets in double game weeks, that sort of thing. But the stats aren't amazing. So it's sort of like for 5.9 million, that's only. Well, you remember when Fraser was that sort of value? Like I feel like he was offering. You want someone who's in that kind of form, in that kind of bracket, and I don't really see anyone. Southampton's been mentioned here. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to get Højbjerg as my fifth midfielder because I know he's 0.2 more than Romeu, but just purely from the eye test, I thought he was really, really good against Liverpool, and he's one of these players who he does largely play in central midfield, but he loves like sort of making runs into the box and really gets involved with a lot of attacking play. Obviously, that header that he had for Long's goal got him an assist as well. So, and he's going to play twice. So, he's someone that I reckon I kind of threw him straight in, to be honest. The problem is, and we're going to have to kind of disclaimer this for the whole sort of episode, to be honest, is that until I know what premiums I want, who I can fit in those gaps, I think it's going to be that way round because, like I said, I'm not really that inspired by too many of the mid-price people. And now that I know I have loads of money available to me because I'm not going to have Kane, it kind of makes me wonder if I'm even necessarily going to have a midfielder in the 5 to 6 million bracket. I don't know, because I could just, my fifth midfielder could be Højbjerg, and then I've got four midfielders somewhere between 7.5 and 10 million. If I'm going to get loads of Spurs midfielders, for example, now that we know that Kane has got this injury, for example. So there's still a lot up in the air. And like I said, I'm just not really inspired by these budget midfielders. Sorry, I know there's a lot of people quite excited, but they're not really exciting me very much.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is, and the problem with the Watford players is that you're talking about kind of fifth midfielders, and then people are considering players at around 5.7, and like Decore's like 5.9. Like you're getting into fourth mid-price territory. It's quite a lot of money.
Exactly.
I mean, for a fifth midfielder, the maximum I kind of really want to pay is around the 5 million mark. And there's three standouts around that price. There's Will Hughes of Watford, who's 4.9. Seems to start a lot. Started in the semi-final, but then got subbed off for Delafeu. So you've got to be a little bit worried about that. But if Delafeu goes back up front, then Hughes should come back into his normal position. He's a really, really talented player, and he's a player that I've wanted to own for a while, but hasn't really seemed to have a sort of a consistent run of starts. But when he does play, I think he's a really good option. Does deliver points when he plays. So I like him. You got Ward Prowse, 5.1 at Southampton, who I think could well be the most popular kind of option around this price bracket. He's on all the set pieces. Southampton's fixtures from now until the end of the season are really nice. And he seems like quite a neat, quite a sort of a sensible option, because you can just kind of get him in and hope that he gets a corner assist or scores from a free kick or something like that. So I quite like him there. And then I like Solly March if he's fit, because I think at 4.8 he's, for all the reasons we talked about sort of in the last segment, I think he's, the versatility like you mentioned, David, and his attacking threat is half decent, and he's been our best player. So, and he's got 2 double game weeks. So they're the 3 that I like. Andy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for Watford, I don't like them if you're going to have to play them outside of the double. Like Arsenal at home, Wolves at home, Chelsea away, and not. I mean, they're at home games, I suppose, but not the greatest fixtures for me. Now, if it's just for the bench boost, then it's a bit different. I think I looked at some of the stats, like shots and stuff, and Decore in last 4 is higher than DFA, Redmond, even Jota, and Ward-Prowse. And one of the reasons is because he does play every single minute. So if you want someone guaranteed for the bench boost, he might be the best option. But like you said, he's 5.9. I'm probably looking more around the 5.3-ish mark, which would bring Redmond into play. And for example, his combined XG and XA over the last 4 is the same as Jota. And Jota was one of the first ones onto my wildcard, actually. He's only 6.1. So I really like him. I'm actually tripled on Wolves currently. So Redmond is someone I like from a stats point of view. He's not someone I like when I watch playing football, though, which is the big problem, because he gets into good positions and he is not the greatest finisher, I think is a fair thing to say. But then for a double game week, for a couple of fixtures on a bench boost, I don't know, for 5.3 million, I'd probably take the risk. So I think DFA, I'd just be too worried, unless we hear something which makes me think he's going to keep starting, which we're not going to. Plus, didn't he roll his ankle or something, or do something to his ankle? So
he had to come off injured. So
yeah, we don't even know if he's fully fit yet. Obviously, we will know that before, hopefully, know some kind of news. So I'm actually looking at Redmond out of all those. Like Jota, not in for me as a 5th mid, because he'll probably be in a 4th, if anything. So Redmond for 5.3, Southampton. And also, Southampton's fixtures are pretty good running up to the end of the season. So if you do have to play them outside of that, I think it's a bit better. But yeah, if they're all going to play 90 minutes a game, then I'd go for Watford ahead of Southampton. But yeah, I like Redmond for me.
Yep, nice. Joe?
Yeah, Southampton are the ones I really like. So much value, got great form, got great fixtures. They got everything, really. I think they're the complete package for the kind of enablers at this time of the season. So they've got Wolves in Game Week 34 at home. That's pretty good. They've got quite a nice Game Week 35, Newcastle, Watford away. 36, they bounce back with a nice home match against On the Beach Bournemouth. And then they got West Ham away, who are awful as well. And Huddersfield, who are just beyond awful, the final game of the season. I think there's some great options there. David mentioned Højbjerg. I think he is fantastic. I think he's someone I've had on my bench for like ever. He was one of my last wildcard enablers. So this was going back to God knows when, dawn of time. And he's had returns, and I've missed them all. And indeed, he got an assist this week, and he sits proudly on my bench there. So I am quite keen on him. But at the moment, I can afford Ward-Prowse. I like Ward-Prowse at the moment. He's top for chances over the Saints' last 4 matches, with a shot every game on average. None of those inside the box, though. So it's showing the kind of free kicks, long-range efforts there. 17 corners is good, and of course he scored 2 goals over those 4 matches, so he's getting those returns as well. At the moment I can afford him. Redmond I'm not sure about. I think he's a good bench boost option, because I think he'll get maybe a couple of assists or something. He'll get up to maybe 8, 9, 10 points even. That's not an unrealistic return over a double game week for him. Amongst defenders, Valerie, fantastic over the last 4. Valerie's had 2 goals from 2 shots on target. Unsustainable for some, man on target for others. Yoshida also 2 shots but no goals, so he could be due a goal, certainly playing. And at the moment, I've got a vague idea of Lewis Duncan to Yoshida, perhaps. I don't mind doubling up on the Southampton defence because you can play one, you can play them any game really, and you can also bench them any game because they're so cheap as well. So you're maximising that value in the rest of the team. Watford fixtures less good. Arsenal at home, and the doubles Huddersfield, Southampton. Then Wolves at home, Chelsea away could be tricky, and West Ham at home. So that's a nice end to the season. But then of course they got the FA Cup final. But I think Deeney's currently in my team. I like the look of him. I like the fact that he's really up for everything at the moment. And Decore I prefer over Delafeu for some of the reasons that David mentioned about a surety of starts and Decore. So I was asked by some people saying, Joe, why do you like Decore? Are you insane? And things like that earlier on Twitter. And well, the reason is because over Watford's last 4 matches, top for shots is Decore. Top for shots inside the box is Decore. There's a song here, isn't there? They used to sing for Bobby Zamora. And top for shots on target is all together now. Come on, boys. Go on, do it. Say
Hurry
it.
up,
Deeney, isn't it?
Poor. Letting me down. It's Decore. You could have sung it. Yeah.
We definitely didn't plan that ahead.
No, we didn't. I should have done on reflection.
You've got the fireworks and like the sparklers out.
You've let me down. You've let yourselves down. So there we go. He's top for everything. Decore, he's pretty good. And Deeney I like as well. Maybe. Yeah, Will Hughes I think is quite good. But I think if you're starting to get into like 4.9 territory, I think I don't know. I just want to find a little bit more. Yeah.
Sorry, were you considering Deeney before the FA Cup? Because I got to be honest, I've only had him in since the FA Cup. I didn't really give him too much thought before, and that worries me because it feels a bit knee jerk that he scored a penalty in the FA Cup, and now I've got him in my team.
Yeah. No. He was in the mix, but Lacazette was in that team, and what happened over the weekend was less. Although Deeney did impress, it was less that. It was more, oh my God, I cannot go near Arsenal. They've got 4. Well, we'll talk about their premium options in a bit. But one of the things I'm sure we will mention is that they are not so great away from home, and most of their remaining games are away from home. So definitely their defence is out for me. And looking at Lacazette, I just thought for that price and those fixtures and Europa still to go for, just made me think. And then I looked around and I think, well, now I'm starting to think, well, if Kane's out, it could be a big turnaround, and I could end up with, who knows what I could end up with. But
it's amazing how much a week can change things, because like Lacazette and Kolasinac were like certs in our teams last week. Now Kolasinac got subbed at half time, and that result against Everton, and Andy called it last week, saying about the away form and all that stuff. Like, it is real. I haven't got any Arsenal players in my team at the moment, which is weird.
No, I mean, I think this is the opportunity. All through this season, we've had opportunities with Arsenal, and I've done all right this season, but I think of what mistakes I've made this season. So, for example, not backing Sterling enough. Certainly not backing Sterling with the captaincy. And I look at these things, and these are genuine things where I've missed out on points, and it's a kind of a lesson learned. But even though Arsenal players have had good points, I don't for a minute think, oh my God, I really wish I'd got Lacazette or Aubameyang in that time. And I just think, whatever. I don't know where they're going to start. I don't know what Emery's doing. He's just an FPL nightmare because you cannot predict who is going to play. And Aubameyang, in theory, should be an amazing selection. But will he play? Aaron Ramsey should be an amazing selection. Will he play? And the list goes on, really. But that's my thoughts on budget options. I think it's all really about Southampton and Watford. And I haven't mentioned Wolves because I just think it's a given. I don't think we need to go into that as much. Jimenez is amazing value.
Jimenez is absolutely nailed on.
Doherty is amazing value. And there's and Jota is amazing value. These are all good options as well. I mean, they just it's just evident for fancy Premier League managers why that is. But yeah, they're my thoughts on that.
Yep. And the only player who we haven't mentioned, I think, from that is a goalkeeper. I really like Angus Gunn. I think if you're looking for a goalkeeper from now until the end of the season, he'd probably be the one that I'd go for. Southampton's fixtures are really strong. He's only 4.3. Decent fixtures in the bench boost. Yeah. So we end on Angus Gunn.
Okay.
There you go.
The only reason I haven't gone for him, I think, is because I don't know. I've just gone for Ryan and Foster, and that feels right. The only thing that someone made me worry about with Foster is that he might miss the last game of the season because, maybe they'll play Gomez.
Did you see him come out and say that there's absolutely no way he'll play it, and he's going to make sure Gomez?
Yeah, no,
exactly.
That will
so
be Foster's game.
Before that, maybe.
Oh yeah,
but that hasn't happened yet this season. That's happening for Wolves with Ruddy was getting that game, but Gomez doesn't need
FA
it.
Cup final, though, a whole different.
Absolutely, that's.
Anyway.
But then you'd have Ryan in, wouldn't you? Anyway, so it's not exactly the end of the world. I know we'll be against City, but at least you'd have a goalkeeper. Yeah,
at least you get the save points. And of course we don't really want to be making a goalkeeper switch. I don't think that would happen.
Yeah, we do. They're well exciting.
I think Foster will play. I just don't think the dynamics of them is. I don't think Gomez needs that extra lift, and I think he's proven himself.
I wish you hadn't said that, Andy. I've got Foster and Ryan now.
I'm just dismissing that.
Put one in my mouth with the gun.
It may or may not happen, but I just dismiss that as a general overthinking. Because once you start going into that, you start thinking about, you start picking apart every single, worst case scenario that can happen for every one of your players. And to be honest, if Foster doesn't make that last game, well, what the hell? I'll just go in and Matt Ryan will just make about 10 saves and concede probably 10 as well. But, never know. Let's go into a chat about premium options. And it's completely changed. And so we did have a picture of Kane. That's gone because he might be very injured. We don't know. And also, I've got a picture of. I'm going to put the picture up anyway. It's a Dele Alli. This is from a previous Scoutcast where we discovered that whenever Kane is out, Ali likes to step up and become even more attacking. But now I've since found out during this Scoutcast from the live chat that Ali indeed may be injured. So maybe Andy, you better shed some light on that. So let's go, Andy. Premiums for the season running.
Yeah, so loads of questions on different premiums. I'll do it one by one because I think that they're all different questions for different teams. So first one is Spurs. Can Kane be a great asset? So I guess, as already mentioned, we started recording this just after the game. He's gone off I think he was helped by two people hobbling down the tunnel, done his ankle in. Ali went down with a wrist injury. He then had to come off. We don't know how bad that is. People saying that Son was hobbling at the end, although then said he was okay in the interview. So we're basically going to have to wait for Pochettino. But we'll still talk about Spurs because obviously they've got incredible run of fixtures.
Can I just interject on Pochettino? Because we do just have a quote that's just come through on Kane. And he's basically just said, maybe we are going to miss him for the rest of the season, which obviously is just the initial reaction. But Pochettino is very much open to the possibility that Kane is done and dusted for the year. So,
yeah, I think that everyone kind of said that straight away the way he went off. So, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to take this conversation as if he's out at this point, I think. The other two, maybe not so sure. So the original question, can Kane be a great asset? I'll answer that now, no. How best can we cope with Spurs rotation? This is asked by General Zob, by the way. And should we triple up on Spurs attack? And I suppose now you can extend that to should we just triple up on Spurs full stop? Whether that's attack or defence or however you want to do about it. So, what are you thinking about Spurs now?
Yeah, so before this I had Son and Kane, and I was kind of quite happy with that. I was thinking a little bit about Trippier, but the fact he's there kind of, with Aurier kind of still injured, he is first choice, which kind of makes me think actually he might be a little bit more at risk because they need him for this kind of Champions League match so much. Son if Son's fit now, he is, I think he's going to be the first name on pretty much everyone's wildcard because he is just going to be such an amazing option until the end of the season. When Kane was out last, whenever Kane's out, Son always steps up. So yeah, he'd more than likely be my captain this week, and then he's got double game week, so I think he would be fantastic. Eriksen wasn't really someone that I was considering too much, although now he seems to be their only fit outfield player, or the only one without an injury. Suddenly makes him a bit more appealing. I think quite a kind of one of the. I felt like my wild card team before this came was sort of relatively settled, I had a few decisions to make, and one of them was, do I keep Mane, or do I take a risk on someone like De Bruyne or Eriksen? And actually, I think now that I didn't really want to do the triple up on Spurs attack, but now a double up with Eriksen and Son does actually seem more appealing. So I think people with Mane might want to, especially if you don't have that much value tied up in him, because you got him late. I think swapping him down to Eriksen could be quite a good move. So I think just the two Spurs for me. I probably won't go for Trippier, because I just worry he's quite important to them now, and they should be able to beat Huddersfield and quite comfortably without him. I think Laporte might be a better option at the same price.
And just to remind people what the fixtures are outside of the double, so it's Huddersfield at home, then Man City away and Brighton at home in the double, then West Ham at home, Bournemouth away and Everton at home. So they're pretty good. So any interest in Lloris? 5.4 million is away into their defence.
I just don't want to spend that much for a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'd rather get Trippier than Lloris, because Aurier's got this injury that has a bit of an unknown return date on it. So the Trippier could conceivably actually play every game. And I feel that, I know you're spending an extra 0.6 or something like that, but I feel like you're getting your money for that, because Trippier's on set pieces, free kicks, got a great goal threat. I can see it. He was one of the people that we looked at in the goalkeepers article for Wildcard, but I just think when you've got Trippier there, you just kind of, I don't know, just feels like you can get a little bit of extra value by spending a bit more.
I think one thing is, if we're going, I think the majority of people are kind of ditching Salah and going for Mane because he's in form, but the triple captain it seems tailor-made for Salah against Huddersfield at home. And if I'm investing that much money in a goalkeeper, it's going to be harder for me to kind of gather the funds together if I decide I want a triple captain Salah in that match. So I think it's, for me, I'd rather have a bit of cash and some cheaper goalkeepers just in case I need it.
Yeah, fair enough. And what about you, Joe? You tripling on Spurs?
Well, at the moment, I've got Son, Eriksen and Kane. So I was looking forward to a big triple up in attack, really going for it, because what you do with these times of season, you monitor what people don't want to do, and no one seems to want to go that far. Now Kane has gone, I think everyone will want to get, well, not everyone, but a lot more people want to get Son and Eriksen. So that kind of differential I've got disappeared slightly. If I went for a third one, I would probably look at Lloris, because a Lloris in for Foster, I think, and then just play Lloris for the rest of the season after Brighton's double game week, game week 34. I think I don't mind spending a little bit more with that. I think he has significant amount of clean sheet potential, and he's about 0.8 more than Foster. I think I got Foster 4.5, so a little less for me. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, and I think I would. I just wanted to point out something though, and this was going to, talk about overthinking. Okay, right, here's this. So I was having a look at Spurs. So everyone's going, yeah, look at Spurs. They're playing Huddersfield. Who rubbish, and they're all saying that. But Spurs are notoriously dreadful after Champions League matches, and so here's the scores of the last 7 matches immediately following a Champions League game. They lost 2-1 to Southampton after Dortmund's second leg. Lost 2-1 to Burnley after Dortmund's second match. It was the first leg against second leg. Yeah, Dortmund first leg. Scraped a 1-0 win against Burnley after Barcelona. Lost 4-2 to Arsenal after Inter Milan. Scraped a 1-0 win against Palace after PSV. Lost 1-0 to City after PSV again. And scraped a 1-0 win against Cardiff. We all remember that one because we all got Kane in for that, and he flopped after Barcelona. So basically, they're either scrapping a 1-0 win, or they're just awful. They're losing to Southampton or Burnley.
This is Huddersfield.
Yeah.
I was just going to say.
It is different.
Those opponents really compare with what Huddersfield are like now.
And I was going to say, and we're going to come to this in the Whipping Boys bit, but this is Huddersfield, and they are different, and I'm sure this will be discussed, but there's certain teams like Huddersfield and Fulham, and everything goes a little bit different. All of the stats, chuck them out, because these are special case teams that are proper awful. But yeah, nevertheless, I just want to put that in because we're talking about overthinking, and that's just something, a little bit of fear to put into people's minds just when they're thinking of captaining Son there. So that's my thoughts on Spurs.
Yeah, I think for me the other thing is yes, they could rotate against Huddersfield. They could play well badly, but there's also all the other games to consider as well. That's the difference, I guess, this week compared to when we free hit. We only have to worry about one game week, whereas Brighton at home, West Ham at home, Bournemouth away. That's three really nice fixtures. I like it for now. If Ali and Co are all injured, then that's a whole different story. But for me, yeah, I was the same as you. I had Kane, Eriksen, and Son. I was going for the triple up. I still want to triple up on them unless Son and Ali are somehow ruled out. Then they're Harry Kane's a big miss for them, but it's just Kane that's missing out. Son has stepped in for him before. We've seen Ali step up, and Eriksen's been doing okay recently as well. So I probably won't triple up on attack now because I just don't think I want to use 3 midfield slots. So I'll probably go for 2. Son will be the first one on the team sheet now for me. Plus one of Ali and Eriksen, and I probably will get one of their defenders. I just think I'm trying to keep it simple with this sometimes, and the fixtures are so good. I want 3 Spurs players, so I'll probably go Trippier unless we get any kind of indication that Ori is going to be back soon. Otherwise, I'll probably find the money for Lloris, even though I know the goalkeeper situation. I just think the fixtures are that good that I'll probably go for Lloris or Trippier just to get the 3. What about you, David?
I think the triple up. I was going to triple up even. So someone mentioned, I think it was you, Az, that you weren't that interested in Eriksen until now. We need an alternative. I was already quite interested in Eriksen, just sort of comparing him against Kane. He's a different type of player when it comes to goal threat. He had a similar number of shots. I think there was 2 or 3 in it over the last 4 matches, considerably fewer actually inside the box. So I'm aware that his goal threat is primarily outside of the box, but for him, not really a problem. So I would say that Eriksen's goal threat was still, good enough. And of course, he's like 3 million cheaper than Kane. And of course, he has so much greater potential for assists than Kane does. And obviously now there's not really much point comparing with Kane because it looks like Kane's not going to play. But the point is that Eriksen, I think, was a good option before, and I still think he's a good option now. And out of all of the Spurs midfielders, he was actually the one I was most excited by. I think I still am. I know that sort of we've been saying about Son sort of stepping up. I don't know. I just feel like I was burnt a few times by Son this season. I know he was burned out and he kind of had a bit of a crazy mental season, but I don't know. I think I'm slowly morphing into Joe here, in that I really do quite like someone who's a bit of a steady Eddie in Eriksen. So I think that he's, of all the people that I kind of have in my draft, which we'll look at in a little bit more detail later. I think Eriksen is probably the one who's most likely to stay. Just because he offers a broad range of points, and he is going to have to he's going to have to up his goal threat as well, I suppose, if they've got no Kane. So quite like looking at him, and then Trippier I think is also pretty nailed on as well. You've mentioned there, Andy, that Spurs fixture is really nice. So and if there's even if Spurs don't really kind of go to town on Huddersfield, I think one thing we can all be quite confident of is a clean sheet. So having Trippier, I'm not worried about that hangover, because I feel like even Spurs hangover is still very much capable of keeping a clean sheet against Huddersfield. And then, the fixtures beyond that look great as well. And Trippier he's almost like the defender. He pretty much is the defensive version of Eriksen, in that he's involved in set pieces, has great delivery from open play as well. So there aren't really many other defenders in his price bracket that I'm really that enamoured by right now. I'm thinking of trading Robertson in for Alexander-Arnold, just so I've got enough money to spend elsewhere, because, Liverpool defensively, their fixtures don't leap out at me. And obviously, they're not keeping quite as many clean sheets as they were early in the season. So,
one thing I looked at was the Palace game. 4 of the next 6 4 of the remaining games rather for Spurs are at home, and that Palace home game was quite interesting. So I had a look at the stats there. As you'd expect, they were all just going for trying to get Kane to score. He had 7 shots, 6 in the box. So if we can discount Kane if he's injured, which does look that way, but Eriksen had 6 shots there as well, and also created 5 chances. So that really backs up what David was saying about Eriksen's broad spread of points. You've got assists and goal threat there, and that's why I'm really keen on Eriksen. He's certainly going nowhere for me. And Son had 4 shots in that game, and 3 of those on target, which is a fairly good return. Obviously, if you spread that out over, say, a 4 or 6 game run, that's a really quite a hefty bunch of underlying stats there. So I think it's all backed up really, and I would fully expect There will be people who won't go Son and Eriksen, but I think that might end up being a little bit of a template move coming up soon for those that are wildcarding. And of course, remember, there are many people that have already wildcarded there. So, yeah, just wanted to add that in.
I think the biggest sort of, I guess, dilemma really for a lot of people, because I'm feeling it right now, I mean, we kind of already touched on it already, but is Man City attacking cover? I know we can go to Aguero now because we don't have to worry about Kane, but, you know, it's kind of hard to pinpoint anyone who's really nailed on for these matches coming up.
Yeah, so, Andy, was there a question on Man City?
What a great segue. We have a question just about that from FPL Foxy. How do we cope with Man City rotation? And are there differentials like Mendy and De Bruyne worth getting in? Like, I'll answer the Mendy one straight away. I just think that is absolutely in no way a risk worth taking. So if any of you disagree, let me know when we come.
No, I agree.
Yeah, David, you are you though? Okay. You're not, are you?
A little bit.
He wasn't even in the squad tonight.
Trust as.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, before tonight, I thought if he got some minutes tonight, then maybe. But I mean, he started in the semi-final.
Do you know, I'm going to make an executive decision. We're not discussing Mendy, right? Attacker.
yeah, forget him. Let's go. What about De Bruyne? Now De Bruyne. De Bruyne was interesting, wasn't it?
So you were already mentioning attackers, like obviously Aguero, but you're looking at getting anyone else in. Obviously, De Bruyne, Sané didn't start tonight. Potentially more like to start in the league for the next game, but obviously we've got 5 or 6 games left to go. So are you looking at any Man City attackers at all?
Who are you asking?
Who's that?
David.
Oh, so sorry. I mean, I currently have Sterling, and the thing is, but it's an irrational decision at this point because it is really just kind of based on what Joe was saying. I think I've been very much like him this season, and I took far too long to get on the Sterling bandwagon. I didn't own him until game week 24 or something. And to be fair, it's not like I had a bad season, so I'm not sort of like cursing the decision not to do that. But, you know, Mark, for example, has done really well this year and just kind of like rolling with those rotations and taking him in his stride because it then means that he can captain him for like a 21-point haul. And as this season kind of winds on for Man City, I think their priority is the Premier League rather than the Champions League, which is just complete conjecture. But I feel that that's more within their grasp, especially now they've lost this first leg to Spurs. You know, I just think that's a harder challenge for them. So I feel like if there's ever going to be a situation, I just feel like Sterling, he's going to have to play him more often than he doesn't. Whereas I don't know if I'd say the same about any of the others in quite the same way. Sané, obviously, not really in the conversation. Mahrez, again, not really in the conversation. Bernardo Silva may or may not have an injury. Guardiola sort of kind of hinted tonight that Silva wasn't fit to play, and he's hoping he'll be fit for next week. Whether or not that was he's played loads of games and he's knackered, or like he's got a muscle pull, we don't know yet. He'll probably tell us more at a later date. But yeah, you know, De Bruyne is another one for injury reasons in terms of like fitness, what he's coming back from. You know, Guardiola has really, really phased him back in. He hasn't just sort of dropped him back in and now he's playing every game. You know, because I don't really think he can. I think even De Bruyne has admitted that himself in post-match interviews about the fact that he knows he's not going to get back to his top level until probably next season because he's just not had that season to build up. So out of all of the Man City midfielders anyway, I just feel like Guardiola's he's got to play Sterling. Probably I can only really see Sterling maybe now having one more rotation this year in the league because they've just got to go for it. They've got to win all their remaining games. If they do that, they win the league. So for me, Sterling's kind of like the only one that I'm really confident on. The rest don't really inspire me.
I mean, in terms of how do you cope with the rotation, you just take it on the chin, I suppose.
Absolutely, and that's what Mark's done. I think that's just what you have to do, right?
Yeah, I think Sterling's probably my favourite too. Although I'm not sure. Again, this is talking about transfers down the line. So next 4 fixtures: Palace away, Man United away, Burnley away. Their last 4 away games in the league, the most goals they've scored is 2. They scored 2-1, 2-1, and they were against pretty weak teams as well. They've just scored no goals against Spurs away from Champions League, so maybe slightly different. Obviously, Spurs are a good team. But I think that's pretty tough. And then Spurs at home again is the other double game week team. So I'm a little bit tempted to go with no City attackers, although obviously Kane's injury makes it a bit easy to get Aguero. And then maybe look at getting them from game week 36 where they've got Burnley, Leicester and Brighton. So
where's your money going to go, Andy? You've got three Brighton defenders. This is the problem I have with wildcard. I just don't want anyone. I just don't want anybody on this wildcard. So I've got to pick 11 players. But yeah, I mean, Sterling's probably the one I'll look to. But Aguero just seems a bit easy to fit in now.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think, guys? I take it you're not going for no City attackers at all.
No, I mean Sterling's a given because I say every Scoutcast I think he's the best player in the league, and I think he's going to get the most points in FPL. So it'd be stupid of me not to go with him. In terms of minutes, though, when you talk about sort of rotation, I don't think De Bruyne could really have done any more to make me think that he's going to play quite a significant part of the next few matches. I mean, I didn't think he'd be capable of playing 3 games in a week, and he did last week. Played both the doubles and the semi-final. He's missed out tonight. Came at the end just for a few minutes, which means he's not getting Champions League games, or maybe he's that game to miss tonight was perfect, because if he played that one as well, you'd be saying 4 games in just over a week. He's definitely not going to start the weekend, but now he looks certain to start at the week. So it looks like he's been kind of managed for the Premier League and the important games coming up. So like I said with Eriksen, I think quite a big decision for me is, do I go with Mane or do I go with De Bruyne, or do I go with Eriksen? Because De Bruyne's got the extra game, although the double isn't amazing. Mane's got Cardiff and then Huddersfield. So it's a bit of a toss-up there. But I think like you said, the Kane to Aguero switch seems really easy. But it could even be a triple up for me with De Bruyne, Sterling and Aguero, which would be the complete opposite of you.
I like it. Just to come back on the Champions League and Premier League thing, I think that's interesting, cool, because I saw it the other way, because I feel like Liverpool definitely for the league, because they've not won it for so long, whereas Pep's already won the league, and Champions League for Man City would be huge now. But I don't know.
It's a rivalry thing, though. I just think, if he's going to lose the Champions League, it would probably be... I mean, it would hurt if they get knocked out by Spurs, 100%, but I still think they're capable of overturning that. If they're losing to a Barcelona or they're losing to Ronaldo, it's kind of like there's almost no shame in that. And that's not to say there's any shame in losing the league to Liverpool, but I just... Do you know what I mean? It's because Liverpool kind of out of nowhere, last season they weren't really title contenders, and now they are. Almost, I just feel it's like a territorial thing. I know it's a bit of a hunch, but do you sort of see what I mean? Like, losing to like a big other European team in Champions League, there's kind of almost no shame in that. And most English clubs getting knocked out by one of those teams, it's normally like, well, this was kind of the best we could do. So
you've got to think he'd love to win the Premier League after City have been pretty poor for quite a large portion of the season. How are they even still in the race? Like, it's
City.
Well, I mean, like, if you think about
they were 10 points behind, weren't they?
Yeah, you think of the form they had over Christmas. You think of the amount of points they were behind. You think of the fact that Liverpool have been the best they've ever been, and City have been significantly worse than last year, and yet
the amount of points it's going to take to win it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think Pep is going to really be.
I think he'll cherish that.
Going for it, but I mean, he wants all of it, doesn't he? He's a winner. He wants everything. I think the squad's so big.
I think we all agree that obviously City are rather good, and we definitely would consider. The main problem is rotation. If we thought Sterling was going to start every game, just get him in. Same with Aguero. And Kane injury certainly opens up the door to Aguero. Now I'm going to mention another player here, and I know we haven't got any questions on this, which shows how much they've dipped in the standing. And that's not a Man City player; it's a Manchester United player. And I'm starting to think now, and don't laugh, about Lukaku, because Manchester United's fixtures are good. They've got West Ham at home next, and then they've got Everton away and City at home, so that's not a great double. Chelsea at home, you never know. Chelsea are not that great away, and then they end with the dream combo that Brighton are enjoying. They've got Huddersfield and Cardiff towards the end. Now, over the last four matches played, Lukaku is top for shots in the box, and he's also had 4 goals in his last 4 matches. In fact, only Vardy has scored more than him. Everyone's forgotten about them, because I think people are...
I like that.
And people are starting to look at Pogba and how he's moving deeper, and they're starting to forget about some of the other players. And Manchester United's still a good team. The other reason I quite like them is they've got a really, really tough Champions League game. So I'm just, no offence, Manchester United fans. I mean, I'm bigging them up. I'm saying, they're good, but they're not going to win that. I don't think.
The thing with
they'll be free up for the league.
Would you be confident enough, though, that he's definitely going to start if everyone is fit? Because it's hard to know, because he wasn't fit for the last game. But obviously, Rashford went back to number 9, and before when Lukaku was when they were all fit, even when Lukaku was fit, he was benched for Rashford playing number 9.
He was initially, but then he wasn't, and it was actually injury that stopped Lukaku. But yeah, David, sorry, what's?
I was just saying that Lukaku was on the pitch, he was on the wing, and then it was what made him get into that form that we've seen. Because I think the Solskjaer went for a front two of Rashford and Lukaku. So there's every possibility he could do that again, because it did seem to get the best out of Lukaku at least. And I mean, I think it's really good. For me, I think this is where we can really tie it into, let's not forget that we are going to have transfers.
Yes.
Because West Ham, that looks great. I really like that. But 35 and 36, Everton and Man City, you know, they're two teams there. I think Man City is 6 clean sheets in 7, and Everton are 5 clean sheets in 6, all of a sudden out of nowhere. And then Chelsea in 36 as well. Those 3 in a row, obviously I know it's only 2 game weeks, they're almost the kind of games that I'd almost want to bench him for. But he's 10.8 million, so I don't want to do that. So I think that probably what I'd be doing with Lukaku would be signing him for 37 rather than getting him in the wild card now. It just kind of depends on what happens elsewhere.
I particularly look at game week 38.
It's Huddersfield and Cardiff,
and I've still got my triple captain.
Exactly.
I've still got my triple captain on Lukaku against Cardiff, game week 38. That sounds quite nice.
That sounds really tasty.
If Lukaku's form is there. Now, Andy, we had some questions, I believe. Well, let's get Arsenal out of the way first, and then they're asking about single game weekers. So yeah, Andy, what's
Arsenal?
We can just do this quickly if you want, Andy.
So yeah, Martin Salin asks, are Arsenal to be trusted? Rocky07 says, is Lacazette still a good option despite the Gunners away form? Obviously, I think a lot of people now put off because they got 4 more away games, I think, for the end of the season. Haven't kept a clean sheet away from home. And, you know, is Lacazette the next one to be benched? And will Aubameyang come in? So what do you think, Az? You still, obviously, Kolasinac was a big deal last week, but people starting to go off him because obviously he came off at half-time. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, that is a worry, and it's something I hadn't really thought about. But obviously when Emery changes system, it seems that he sacrifices the wing-backs and Kolasinac looks like he could go off. As what kind of gives Monreal perhaps the edge over him. He's not as attacking, but he has shown that he can get a goal in the last few seasons. He's a bit more money, but I think actually I'd prefer Monreal to Kolasinac now. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much a week can kind of change your judgment on things. I mean, I'm looking for any excuse to get Aubameyang. Like he's got 17 goals this season. Like he's going for the golden boot, and yet his minutes. I mean, he hasn't played 90 minutes in I think 7 or 8 matches. Like it's just mad.
It feels like a punt to me at this point.
It does.
And that much money. I just don't see how anyone can really do it without.
And the away form punch as well. Like
you're getting him for 50% of his games, not 100%, because away they're rubbish.
Yeah, so it's only Lacazette. I mean, the midfield just seems completely off to me. I mean, you know, Ramsey at 7.1 looks quite good, but I still just have, you know, he's leaving at the end of the season. Like, surely they're going to want to not. I mean, they're going to use him because they want top 4, but then do they not want to use him because they kind of want to build around the players they're going to be keeping? I don't know. It just feels a bit much there, and there's no one else in the midfield that I like the look of. There's only Lacazette who looks like a good option, and I'm keeping Vardy, and I'm going to make sure I leave enough money in the bank to potentially do Vardy to Lacazette for the double. So Lacazette could well be the only Arsenal player I end up with.
And what about you, Joe?
I just haven't got much more to add about Arsenal. It's just that away form. I think there is lots more exciting opportunities elsewhere. There's Lacazette I could consider, but I don't know whether he's going to play. I don't know whether they're going to perform. But Andy, we had some questions, didn't we, on just before we wrap up this premium section about single game week premium options. Now I think this is quite interesting, especially with Kane out as well. People might be thinking about some of these. So yeah, what's the question on that?
Yeah, it's from Finn. Which heavy hitter single game week should we include, especially from Liverpool? Minister of FPL says, is Salah simply too expensive? And what about Vardy? So we'll go to ours first because you've got Vardy. So what's you thinking?
Yeah, I'm really surprised that people are shifting him on their wild card, because he to me is the informed player in the league, and Leicester, you could argue, are the informed team in the league. They got a home match against Newcastle, who have been really poor in surprisingly poor in quite a few recent games. They've just lost Lejeune to a season-ending injury. and I just think Leicester have just got the wind in their sails, and I think, this isn't the double game week this week. There's still plenty to play for, and I'm just really happy keeping him for this week. He feels like more of a differential because so many people are kind of are shifting him on. He's no way in my plans to leave this week, and in fact, I'm reluctant to even lose him for the rest of the season. I mean, he's got Newcastle at home this week, and then he's got West Ham away, who are absolutely terrible. Then he's got 3 really tough games, well, on paper, in Arsenal, Man City and Chelsea. But I wouldn't back against him to score in any of those games. He loves scoring against big teams.
And the Arsenal game is at King Power as well, and Arsenal have the only team not to have a clean sheet away from home this season, so you can guarantee he's going to get a penalty in that, surely.
Yeah. I mean, Chelsea on the last day of the season at home, I don't think that's a particularly bad game for him. It's just that City games. And Jamie Vardy, I've found from having him in the past few seasons, always finishes a season so strongly, and he's still got the new manager bounce, and Leicester are playing really well. So I'd find him a very, very reluctant sell at any point in the season, but definitely not this week.
Yeah, I just can't bring myself. I've not had him, so maybe it's easier, but I just can't bring myself to get him in with no double game week and 3 top 6 games finish. I know what you're saying. He's a bit of a top 6 killer. But I just feel like even for him, you got to think the ceiling is going to be much lower against his team. I'm not going to go for him. How about Liverpool then, Joe? Salah too expensive, and are you kind of doubling up or just going for one?
Yeah, no, I've got Mane. Obviously, the Kane injury means there's a bit more cash, so I think it does make me start to think about Salah until I used my eyes watching the matches and looked at the underlying stats. And I'm just going to hand over to David for this point, because David's been doing some research. There's an article on site about this very issue about why hopefully he's going to explain why I am possibly wise to have Mane and wise to shun Salah. So yes, David, what's the lowdown on Liverpool assets?
Yeah, well, the Salah thing is really interesting, and I want to give some credit to Paul for this. Paul McKinnon. A lot of people probably don't even know because he loves to hide away in the shadows, but he noticed something that was quite intriguing in the members area, and we basically just fleshed it out into a full article about the tactical sort of change that Klopp made once they started dropping points, and they've been playing 4-2-3-1 quite a lot with Salah as the centre forward. I think it was 14 times between game week 6 and 24. And then since game week 25, it's just been 4-3-3 the whole way through, and that's shifted Salah back out to the right. And it's had a really strange effect on him because, so, I mean, Joe, you and me, we've been sort of talking about Salah in a lot of the captain videos we've been talking about, and we've been particularly drawn to how many shots he's been having. And that was sort of one of the main reasons why we were keeping hold of him, why we're thinking, oh, surely he's due, he's going to score. And I know he has eventually broken that duck in the Southampton game. But the weird thing was in this research that we found that basically if you compare those two periods, he was having more shots from the right wing than he was when he was a centre forward, and that was in total, that was outside the box, inside the box. Even shots on target was up. It was so strange. But what crucially had dropped was the expected goals. So effectively what that's saying is that the quality of the chances that he has been getting since he went back out to the right has significantly dropped, which is so strange. It's weird that his chances, he's having more opportunities, but he's snatching at them. And obviously that kind of really does just, statistically back up the eye test. A lot of people have been saying that, he doesn't seem confident on the ball. This is the other thing. He's had more touches in the penalty box, but actually when you're watching the games, that's not because he's providing more threat with those touches. He's not so confident on the ball. He's not so confident of his control of it. So he's touching the ball more when previously he would have been making use of minimal touches to either put the ball in the back of the net or set someone else up. So with that dip, since Liverpool have changed their formation, effectively that just kind of has really damaged his fantasy potential. But then when you look at Mane and Firmino, what's happened to them is Firmino's assist potential has gone up. Mane's goal threat's gone up. And that's not to say that they're necessarily worth having. It's just if you are going to have a Liverpool attacker, Mane just makes the most sense because the quality of his chances is... He
seems to be shooting more centrally, Mane.
Exactly.
And you can see it. It's that eye test. So sometimes I don't watch some games for a little while. Maybe I'll listen to them on radio, then I'll watch. And I've been watching Liverpool recently, and I've been watching where Salah's been striking from. And it's just to a slight angle. It's just, and he takes that extra touch, and then it gives defenders time to come steaming in. So when he has got any points, there was that ridiculous assist, or did he get an assist? But it all comes because basically players are steaming in at him. Meanwhile, Mane's coming through the centre. Now Salah's recent great goal against Southampton, well, that was through the middle, and that was coming from deep as well. It was an unusual goal, really, for him recently, an attacking threat. But crucially, it came through the middle, and what happens is he scored it. So if Salah moved into that central role, get him in. I would say essential, because that's the role that got us loads of green arrows over Christmas. But at the moment, I'm looking at them.
That's going to happen.
I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at Mane and Firmino, and I'm thinking they're the ones who are actually going to score. And indeed, what is happening is they are the ones who are actually scoring. And Firmino scored tonight in the Champions League. So, for me at the moment, I'm not interested in Salah. That could all change. But I look at that those matches with that are coming up after the double, and I start thinking Mane captain. I don't think Salah captain at the moment. And I haven't seen.
That's the thing. You don't want to pull away. That's the thing. I mean, if you're going to take Salah out, you have to have someone still there, because it's like we're saying with Man United. We've got Cardiff and Huddersfield coming up. You are going to have an attacking option in that game, for obvious reasons that we've covered a million times before. And let's not forget that a couple of weeks ago we were all penciling in Salah for triple captain at home against Huddersfield 36, and he could still get a decent haul in that game. But the point is, if you were targeting that game before Huddersfield went down, and then you've seen what they were like at home against Leicester, now that they have gone down, that becomes more of an opportunity for a triple captain. Mane. I don't know, but it'd be really silly to overlook those fixtures if you're going to sell Salah.
Before we quickly go on to completely awful teams, Andy, what are your final thoughts on Liverpool and single game weekers?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to go for Vardy. I don't think I'm pretty much. Mane is probably a lock in my team. I like you said, I want someone from Cardiff, and it could even be a captain against Huddersfield. That's the 1 week I wasn't really looking at necessarily captain and a Spurs player ahead of a Liverpool one. And then I'm probably going to go for a defender as well. I'm probably going to get the cash just to I'll keep Robertson. I think Trent will probably continue to play, but obviously once he was in trouble against Southampton, rather than get someone on the pitch to help him, they got someone to completely cover for him and took him off, which is a little bit of a worry, but I think he'll probably keep starting. I don't see too many issues there, but obviously Gomez is back soon. Preferred position centre-back, but he has played right back before. Whether or not he'll come back after such a lengthy injury and start taking Trent's place does seem a little bit unlikely, but I just think Robertson's guaranteed to play. They haven't really got, Moreno is just not really an option there. So I'm gonna spend the cash. I'm probably gonna go for two Liverpool.
Okay. David, next on the notes, it says talking point, Whipping Boys Seaside Special. So over to you.
Yeah, that's right. So we've noticed that a lot of these teams that are near the beach want to go there, especially at this time of the season. So question coming from Fabinho said, which teams do you believe are on the beach currently? And there's also combined that with who are the latest Whipping Boys that we should target when considering captains and attacking transfers. And we are so blessed as fantasy managers because there does appear to be some level of overlap between teams that are on the beach and teams that even before they were on the beach were defensively awful. If you look at the last four matches, goal attempts conceded in the box, you've got West Ham and Fulham are bottom of the pile. Fulham are slightly near water, I think, than West Ham, although it is the Thames, it's not quite the beach, but just to continue that trend. They're both joined bottom with 46, and you've got Huddersfield already down 43. Cardiff, obviously they've still got a lot to play for, but still conceding lots of shots as well. 42, Watford 39, Crystal Palace 38, Southampton 35. That's your region of teams that are shedding a lot of shots right now. And we've said a few times this season about looking at game week 38 and maybe putting a triple captain on there. Do we start to feel that maybe game weeks 36 and 37 can take on a similar kind of role in this season, and we end up seeing 4 or 5 nils against these sorts of teams? Is that going to change our transfer policy perhaps in the next couple of weeks? Let's start with you, Az.
Yeah, I mean, I've been wondering a little bit about sort of Liverpool and City and what happens if they do go 1 or 2-0 up against one of these sides. And we found with City that they go 2-0 up in one of these away games and then they kind of shut up shop a little bit and don't sort of go for the jugular as they might have done at the start of the season. So maybe it can work the other way, and actually teams kind of settle with what they've got and just accept that the other team isn't going to attack them that much, and just kind of grind out a low win. It's normally the last day of the season where you see kind of the big games, especially in front of their own fans, where they want to give off a big sort of send off to them. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider. I mean, Bournemouth's slide is crazy. They've just completely taken their foot off the gas now. When you look at all the kind of clamour to get people like Wilson and King in, and even some of their defenders, and they've just been awful for weeks now. So any team playing Bournemouth coming up looks like a really good option. And yeah, I mean, it's always been a kind of strategy of mine is target players in my team who've got something to play for. That includes going for the Golden Boot or teams that are fighting relegation and stuff like that, and kind of try and avoid the teams who are on the beach. So I imagine that's kind of what I'm going to be doing towards the end of the season again this year.
Yeah, I don't think I would really do anything different or got anything to add, really. The teams you read out are all rubbish, and that's who I want my players playing against, to be honest. I don't, on the beach or not, the ones you've read out are rubbish. They're at the Fulham, Huddersfield and Cardiff, conceding lots of shots. That's why they're in the bottom three. That's the teams I definitely want to play against. West Ham, to be fair, were much better in the second half once they took Hernandez off and put Arnautovic up front. But Chelsea still had plenty of chances. All that West Ham really got better at was attacking. So, yeah, all those teams you read out will definitely still be, unless something major changes over the next couple of weeks, they'll be the ones I'll be targeting for sure.
Yeah, I think with me, what it does is it justifies a lot of our wildcard picks. So if you look at the fixtures, particularly towards the very end of the season, so for example, Southampton play West Ham and then Huddersfield, which is great really. So they've got two of these kind of at the moment whipping boys to go there. So that justifies not loading up as such, but just having some of those assets there. And if you don't want to spend a transfer one of those weeks, you can put Ward-Prowse in and maybe hope for the best. And also, I think it's Wolves play Fulham game week 37. Jimenez, that is quite a nice potential triple captaincy moment there. Always back. Jimenez is one of the few players I've got where I just expect points. It's a question of how many each week. But certainly against Fulham, I'd be expecting points as well. And we go back to that Lukaku pick again, looking at that with Huddersfield in game week 37. That looks quite nice as well. So I think it justifies it. I just wanted to mention Bournemouth as well. I think I mentioned, touched on this already, but Bournemouth are getting closer to the beach. I know, obviously, they're literally by the beach, but it's they're now just a hop, skip and jump away. So they moved from the fourth best in terms of goal attempts in the box, the average, to the 10th best. So they're gradually getting worse and worse in attack as well. They're not quite whipping boy status yet, but they are in danger of getting there, and they might just end up being sort of half-whipped beach boys. I don't know whether that's a thing.
Well, don't forget that away from home they're pretty awful, so you could expect them to be whipping boys when they're away, and when you look at those games, you've got Southampton away. We're talking about Southampton players that we can have. Spurs away. They're at home against Spurs, but they're away against Palace. Maybe a couple of people there. Milivojevic, perhaps. The last day of the season, nice little punt. So targeting Bournemouth's away fixtures, I think, could be the way to go with them. Because even when they weren't on the beach, they were awful away. So
yeah. Okay, well, I know people like to have an update on our whipping boys, and there's a few familiar faces there. And I know previous weeks when we've done this as well, some surprises crop up. And I think Bournemouth not quite being a whipping boy status at the moment, but as you said, away from home, they really are. Let's have a look at game week 34. We're going to move into looking at our differentials and clean sheets, try and get this done quickly before we reveal our now completely redundant wildcard teams. What do you want to go with first, differentials or clean sheets?
We'll go with differentials first. Yeah, we'll do this quite quickly because we're it's a long Scoutcast this. So I think we actually did quite well last week. I think all of us got our differentials right. Andy went for Calvert-Lewin. I went for Tielemans. Joe, you went for Rudiger. So I mean, it's not very often we get 100% success rate on here. So well done, everyone. So let's try and do that again. Who was first this week? Andy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I didn't even pick one, to be honest. So I'm going to go really left field with Jordan Henderson, 0.6%. Yeah, just goal and assist in the last game. I've just seen a quote on Twitter from Klopp saying, you basically blame me that he played number 6 for 1.5 years. It was obviously not the position he wanted to play. So he's playing a bit further forward, basically, in the midfield. So why not? I don't know which Brighton players you guys have picked. So Jordan Henderson.
Beautiful. And one person triple captained him last week.
Yeah, it was his mum, wasn't it?
Since fantasy football. I mean, weird. Probably his mum, yeah. I'm going to go for Anthony Knockaert because Brighton have got double game week and I'm a Brighton fan. And Knockaert, I thought, was absolutely brilliant against City without anyone to pass the ball to when he kept winning the ball back for us time and time again. I think it's a decent option for wildcard teams as well. Only 5.1 million. It just doesn't really get enough attacking returns, but I do think he's a good player, and hopefully he'll do the business for us double game week. Joe,
I'm just gonna go for easy wins now. So I could pick Rudiger last time, and I just felt there was going to be a clean sheet, and he delivered. So I'm going to go for Matt Ryan this time. For all the reasons we mentioned before, so Cardiff joint lowest amount of big chances, and Bournemouth, getting more towards the beach. And I just think I'm going to get at least a clean sheet here. So I'm going for. It almost feels like cheating, but when he gets me nothing, I guess it'll be proved that it wasn't cheating. So yeah, that's mine.
Your third defender differential in a row.
But they're coming in.
Joe, that's not surprising at all.
It's really not.
Yeah, but I'm now top 37% of my picks are correct.
And
so
your last two defenders have got your points.
Yeah.
So
just sticking with the defence. Dullard to the end.
David?
So I've gone very, very, very left field. There's someone I'm not even sure is necessarily going to start. I've gone with Florin Andone because a lot of people are looking at Murray, and we've just, by the way, reset the captain poll on the site because Kane was running away with it, and we want to see where you're all going to go now. But before we reset it, Murray was on something like 10% at one stage, and as we sort of mentioned earlier, basically in the last 4 home matches, he's had 7 shots on goal, 7 in the box. He just can't hit a barn door right now, and isn't particularly nailed on because there are other options to come in. And I think he's only started one of the last 6. I think it is. He's been largely used as a substitute, but he had a bit of an injury, then he had a suspension. I think he starts one of these games, and it basically in the last 4 home matches that people have played for Bournemouth players, he's had the most shots on target. So, I feel like if he does start one of those 2 games, just based on how bad Bournemouth and Cardiff are away from home, I think he'll get something. So, yeah.
Cool. So moving on to clean sheets. The only person to get one right last week was Andy, who has an absolutely atrocious record at clean sheets this season. So that takes your total up to 27%, Andy.
That's because I always go last because I'm on. You hate me now because I don't.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's Luke's excuse as well. So, yeah, I mean, you went for Chelsea last week. Good shout. Joe and I went for Leicester and Newcastle, respectively. Joe, you were umming and ahhing about Newcastle.
I did say that Newcastle have a really good, strong home record, but I did counter that by saying Palace were actually the best attacking team, the best form away from home going into that. And guess what happened? They obviously won. So, yeah.
There it goes. Well, Andy, you can go first this week, as you complained. Who do you want?
Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not really sure who you guys have gone for, so I'm just going to pick a left field one. Arsenal to get their first clean sheet of the season against a Watford side who are going to be knackered from playing extra time. That's it.
Beautiful. I mean, Henderson and Arsenal, if they come, you should put some bets on that.
Why not? I might not even be on for the rest of the season, so I don't have to face this anymore.
Joe?
I'm going for Spurs against Huddersfield. Only 11 goals on the road. Just Cardiff have scored fewer than that. So yeah, that's why, as you see, mentioned Cardiff there. Go for Ryan for my diffs. Clean sheets. Go for the next best. And I say next best to Brighton, but that's Spurs at the moment, I think.
Nice. And as the only one of us who's not going to be tripling up on Brighton defence, I'm going to go for Brighton because they've got 2. So,
excuse me.
No, you've said it now, David.
I thought I was ahead of you in the list, so I have also chosen Brighton. We'll tell you, why don't we have one each?
Okay, which one do you want?
Oh,
Bournemouth
that's
or
good.
Cardiff?
Yeah. I'll have Bournemouth, please.
Okay, I'll have Cardiff. There you go. That was easy. Well worked
Yeah,
out.
there we go. Yeah.
Nice.
Can't believe you're both getting a clean sheet.
That,
No.
that could have been a disastrous argument on the
It
Scoutcast.
could, yeah. I did have a I would have gone for Leicester otherwise, but no, I'll take Brighton. I'll take Brighton at Cardiff. No, Brighton at home to Cardiff.
Okay, we're all done for clean sheets.
All done.
What we're going to do is we're going to finish off by having a look at our wildcard teams, which are all absolutely out of date. Here's my one. I mean, as I've already discussed here, I've looked at Son and Ericsson was to be my secret weapon, which of course Andy had as well, so it's our secret weapon. But no
Now
more.
it's everybody's
Now it's everyone's secret weapon. I'm looking at Deeney. I'm really keen on. I just think he's good value, and I really like Watford's double game week fixture. Jimenez is locked in. Son and Ericsson are locked in for me. Mane and Sterling are almost locked in. At least two of those Brighton defenders are locked in, and I may indeed captain Duffy because no one else really appeals to me. Robertson stays. I've got money tied up with him. I like Liverpool's fixtures, and so a lot of those are kind of there already. I like Ward-Prowse at the moment, but I could quite happily go to Redmond or Højbjerg or any of those kind of that kind of cheaper bracket. Valerie I like as well. I almost think a Southampton double up for the Game Week 35 fixture could be good. Doherty's going nowhere as well. Money tied up with him. I think he's great. I don't think Wolves are going to keep many clean sheets. They never do, but got that attacking threat there. What am I going to do with Kane? Lukaku's in the frame and Aguero in the frame. And money left over, I'm not happy with Dunk there, so I might move Dunk on to someone else more expensive, and I may even upgrade Foster to Lloris. So that's the kind of thing I'm thinking there. But all those other players, I think, are pretty locked in. Let's have a look at your team, and what's your thoughts? I'm sure it's got Kane in there. So what are your thoughts with there?
Yeah, Kane's just going to be Aguero, I think. And then there's kind of four decisions for me, which I'm kind of wrestling with. It's Laporte versus Trippier. It's Robertson versus Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, I'd rather have Robertson, but I can do quite a bit with the million I save. It's Deulofeu versus Jota, and it's Mane versus De Bruyne or Ericsson. So the rest of my team, I'm really happy with. It's just those four, which could kind of go anyway. The team that's on the screen is obviously my current thoughts, but those four players could kind of change around a bit. My captain this week will be Son, I imagine, because Kane's out, and as long as he's not injured, then I think he's the best pick. Okay,
Andy, let's have a look at your team. Now, your team's almost identical to mine, except you got about 6 million in the bank. So let's have a look at it, and what are you looking at doing?
Yeah, it's 5.9 in the bank, and obviously Kane's out now, so I'm kind of all over the place. I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick to the triple Brighton defence. So Kane will go. I don't know if I'll go straight to Aguero. I might go to Lacazette, even though I'm not quite sure about Arsenal. And then I can get Sterling in for Ward-Prowse and still have money left over to upgrade my defence. So I'm kind of looking towards that. And then Deeney would basically bench this week and then used on the bench route. So I don't hugely like that because it's a lot of money for your fifth or your eighth attacker. But if the money's there, I might do that. So yeah, I'm pretty locked in. Like Son for sure if he's not injured, and Ericsson, and I will look to get a third Spurs player in there somehow, Lloris or Trippier. I really don't mind spending the extra on the goalkeeper for their fixtures. It's just what to do with Kane really, whether I go straight to Aguero or just stick with Sterling only. I'm not super keen on going for multiple Man City players, even though they're such a good team, just because of the fixtures.
Okay, David, let's have a look at your team. Kane there. What are your plans?
Well, I've already sold Kane.
We've been on air.
Oh yeah. I was like, I just want to do it before, because just in case he drops overnight, with some people selling him. Perhaps I know that wildcards don't always affect it, but just wanted to avoid.
Aguero is quite close to a drop, by the way. So if it is for him, then you might.
No. So I made a bit of an error in that I took Vardy out, thinking I wasn't going to have him. I then changed my mind, and then he went up in price. So I've lost 0.1 on getting Vardy back in, but that's is how it is. In terms of like who really is going to replace Kane, not really sure. Obviously, I've talked down Deulofeu on this episode, and those who are watching on YouTube can see that he's actually in my squad, and that's more just a kind of placeholder because that's the kind of price I want to spend probably for my fourth midfielder, or at least that's what I wanted to spend before I knew about Kane, because I do want to have Sterling. Like I said, I really want to have Eriksen. I feel like I should have Mane, and then now I'd like Son. So actually, maybe I spend more and make turn Deulofeu into Son, and go with Vardy and no Aguero. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see. So much to change the next couple of days. I think I am going to lock in the triple up on the Brighton defence. Like I said, I think it's quite a nice opportunity. And I feel like I'm in a position where I can take a few risks and be like, do you know what? Let's just go for something, like that. And if it pays off, it could be great. Obviously, my draft doesn't have any Liverpool defence in it. I think if I'm going to have someone, it'll be Trent. It won't be Robertson, which is a shame because Robertson is one of my game week 1 lads who just has never left my team. So
he's outscored every striker in the game.
It's mad. Yeah, he's been great. But that's the thing. He has been amazing. But I do just think now that you've got doubles to look at elsewhere, that 1.3 million, or I think it's 0.9 for me because I've had him right from the start. But that is going to go a long way. And Alexander-Arnold does kind of have a bit more going for him when he's playing in terms of his involvement in set pieces and what have you. So yeah, Trippier I think is pretty nailed to stay as well. Goalkeeper situation, Ryan's a bit of an obvious one. I've been looking at Guaita because he's kind of been racking up the saves recently, and ironically I'm kind of torn. I want someone nice and cheap who's going to play some got some nice fixtures or maybe the possibility to make some saves. So I'm actually thinking about Gunn at Southampton, which leaves me between two really exciting Beatles puns. Either I can have While My Guaita Gently Weeps or Happiness is a Warm Gun. So we'll just have to see how that one goes.
Okay, well, it's always good to end on a Beatles pun. Thanks so much, everyone. This has been a gargantuan Scoutcast. But, the whole Kane issue has sent us into a bit of a panic. As and Andy's names have been moving to and fro. At one point, you may not have noticed, you three, but my cat made an appearance and I had to let it out. And a variety of other...
We can't see you, so we missed that.
The whole of YouTube and of course, there was the momentous failure of our joint Decore song. So what I'm going to do afterwards, I'm going to try and find some kind of copyright-free sound effect of some tumbleweeds for that moment. But for now, it's a good night from me.
Good night.
Good night, Andy.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.